Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really, well, pretty mind-expanding. Could planets, actual planets, be alive? Like life forms themselves?
Right. Sounds straight out of sci-fi, doesn't it?
Totally. But the idea actually has some pretty serious scientific roots we're going to explore.
Exactly. Our mission today is to really unpack this, trace it from the first, maybe controversial ideas right up to what scientists are thinking now.
And see what the science actually says, maybe challenge how you, our listeners, think about life itself.
Yeah, it's fundamental stuff.
And I think the place to start, the concept that really kicked this whole thing off, is the Gaia Hypothesis, right?
Absolutely. That's the cornerstone.
Yeah.
James Lovelock, back in the 1970s.
Good.
He proposed this really revolutionary idea that Earth isn't just a rock with life on it. It functions like a single complex system, self-regulating.
Almost.
Well, almost like an organism.
Self-regulating, so it keeps itself stable somehow.
That's the core idea. And the really radical part wasn't just, life adapting to Earth. It was that life actively changes Earth.
Changes it. How?
It modifies the environment, the atmosphere, the oceans, the climate in ways that actually help keep the planet habitable for life itself.
Okay, hold on. So life isn't just like a passenger here. It's helping to steer the ship.
Precisely. Lovelock and Lynn Margulis argued this back in '74. They talked about atmospheric homeostasis.
Homeostasis, like how our bodies maintain temperature.
Exactly like that. A stable balance, in this case, of the gases in the atmosphere maintained by life, which in turn supports life. It's a loop.
Can you give us some examples, like what does Earth do?
Well, think about temperature. The sun's output has changed quite a bit over billions of years.
Yeah, it's gotten brighter.
Right. But Earth's surface temperature has stayed, well, remarkably stable within a range that allows liquid water and life. That's not automatic.
So something's regulating it.
Gaia theory suggests life plays a huge role. Then there's the atmosphere itself, the amount of oxygen, for instance. It's way higher than you'd expect on a planet without life constantly pumping it out.
And balancing it with things like CO2.
Exactly. It's maintained by biological processes. Think photosynthesis, respiration. It's a global exchange.
So it's this deep interconnectedness. Oceans, clouds, volcanoes, life, all linked.
Absolutely. It's all part of these incredibly complex feedback loops. CO2 levels affect temperature, which affects oceans and clouds, which affects how much sunlight is reflected.
Which feeds back into temperature and CO2 uptake by plants and oceans. Wow.
And the fascinating thing, the thing Lovelock pointed out, is that these loops consistently seem to stabilize conditions in a way that favors life.
So Gaia wasn't just poetry. It was a scientific hypothesis about how life actively engineers its own environment.
It was. But it wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms initially.
Yeah. Why not?
Too weird. Partly that, maybe. But scientifically, the criticism was often about the mechanism. How exactly does Earth self-regulate like an organism? Is it conscious? Is it just luck? Some saw it as too metaphorical, lacking concrete, testable processes.
Right. How does a planet coordinate all this without a brain, essentially?
That was the big question. Is it just a bunch of convenient feedback loops that happen to work out, or something more integrated?
But you said modern science has started to look into this more.
Yes, very much so. Earth systems science, as a field, has really taken off.
Okay.
And it's provided a lot more evidence for the kinds of mechanisms Gaia proposed. We understand the planet systems, the carbon cycle, the water cycle, climate feedbacks in much more detail now.
So finding the how.
Exactly. People like Tim Lenton, for example, did work in the late 2000s showing really crucial feedback loops between biology and things like atmospheric chemistry, loops that are essential for long-term climate stability.
Okay, give me an example of one of these real-world loops.
Sure. Think about tiny marine algae, phytoplankton. Some of them release a sulfur compound dimethyl sulfide, or DMS. This stuff gets into the atmosphere, and the breakdown products can actually help seed clouds over the ocean.
Wait, algae make clouds?
They can influence cloud formation, yeah. More clouds mean more sunlight reflected away, which can cool the surface. So you have marine life potentially influencing global temperature.
That's amazing. A tiny organism having a planet-scale effect.
Exactly. Or think about rainforests, like the Amazon. They don't just get rain. Through transpiration, releasing water vapor from leaves, they actively help create rainfall patterns over the entire region. The forest generates its own weather, in a way.
Wow. So it's recycling water and influencing the climate locally, maybe even further.
Definitely locally, and potentially with wider impacts. And even, like down in the soil, Microbes adjust how much carbon they release depending on the temperature and other feedback.
So it's not just life reacting anymore, it's life and the environment in this constant dance, regulating each other.
That's the key shift in perspective, I think. It's less like a stage with actors and more like the actors are constantly rebuilding the stage as they perform.
That coordination Lovelock talked about, it sounds less metaphorical now, more like an actual planetary process.
It starts to feel that way, doesn't it? The Earth system really does seem to have these homeostatic, self-regulating properties, which logically brings you to the next question.
If it can happen here.
It can happen elsewhere. On exoplanets.
Right. Are we looking for Gaia out there among the stars?
Well, that's the exciting frontier. Astrobiologists are seriously considering this. How would you even look for a planet that's self-regulating like Earth?
Not just looking for water or oxygen, but for the whole system working.
Exactly. Looking for biosignature feedback loops, patterns, in the atmospheric gases, the temperature stability, the energy flow. Things that are hard to explain without some kind of active, life-driven regulation.
Which connects to the living worlds hypothesis. Is that taking Gaia galaxy-wide?
It's definitely building on it. Schulze-Makuch and Davies proposed this in 2010. They argued that if life and its planet become really tightly interwoven, really coupled, then maybe you should consider the entire planet itself as a single living entity, one life form.
Wow. Okay. That is a huge leap. What would a living world actually look like from afar?
They suggested some potential signs, like super stable surface temperatures over geological time, even if the star's energy output changes.
Like Earth managed.
Right. Also, strong atmospheric disequilibrium. Think about Earth having lots of oxygen and methane at the same time. Chemically, they should react and disappear relatively quickly.
But life keeps producing both.
Exactly. That imbalance is a potential sign of active biology on a massive scale. We might also look for patterns in how the planet reflects light, its albedo, or its cloud cover that seem to resist big climate shifts, like a planetary thermostat working overtime.
So it's about detecting the behavior of the planet, its stability, its weird atmosphere, not just finding one life molecule.
Precisely. Moving beyond just biosignatures to looking for signs of planetary-scale homeostasis. It's a much more holistic view.
Okay, but the big question then is, how do we actually detect that? Billions of light years away.
Yeah, that's the challenge, no doubt. But our tools are getting incredibly powerful.
Telescopes.
Exactly. Think about the James Webb Space Telescope. It's already giving us amazing data on exoplanet atmospheres.
Right, I've seen some of that, analyzing the light that passes through the atmosphere.
And future missions being planned, like maybe LVOR or HABEX, are designed specifically to do this with even more precision, to really dissect the chemistry of distant worlds.
So they'll look for the gases, the oxygen, the methane.
Yes, but hopefully more than that. The idea is evolving. We need to look for the patterns. Are there cycles in the gases like a planetary breath?
Whoa.
Are the gas ratios so out of whack, chemically speaking, that only constant biological input makes sense? And crucially, can we tell if the planet's climate seems unusually stable over long periods?
It's revolutionary, really, finding a planet that is alive, not just has life.
It completely reframes the search. But we have to be careful, too.
How so?
Well, the question of anthropomorphism comes up again. Are we just projecting our idea of life onto a ball of rock and gas?
Right, imposing our own definition.
Exactly. But then again, our definition of life itself is, well, it's not set in stone. It's evolving, too.
How do you mean?
Scientists like Lee Cronin are suggesting maybe we should define life more broadly, not just by DNA or cells, but maybe by information processing.
Information.
Yeah, and self-regulation, structural adaptation over time, the ability of a system to maintain itself, learn, evolve its structure.
And if you use that kind of definition...
Well, suddenly Earth itself starts to look a lot more like it fits the bill, doesn't it? It processes information via climate cycles, nutrient flows. It self-regulates its temperature and atmosphere. It adapts structurally through things like erosion, soil formation, even plate tectonics influenced by water, which life maintains.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. It makes the idea less biological in the traditional sense.
Right, and it opens the door to thinking about other places differently. Maybe Titan with its methane cycle, maybe Europa's ocean, maybe even weird gas planets we haven't imagined. Could they exhibit complex self-regulation that qualifies as life in this broader sense?
Could a living planet be the ultimate evolutionary step? Life becoming the entire biosphere?
It's definitely way out there speculation, but incredibly interesting to think about. Remember how long it took for plate tectonics to be accepted?
True. The idea of continents moving seemed absurd at first.
And now it's fundamental geology. Maybe our understanding of life and planets is due for a similar shakeup.
This really changes how you look at Earth, though. If our planet is, in some sense, a living system, what does that mean for us right now with climate change and everything?
Now you're getting to the really immediate practical relevance of this whole idea.
Yeah.
If you view Earth as a single, integrated, self-regulating system, whether you call it alive or not, then things like global warming, deforestation, ocean acidification, they aren't just isolated environmental problems.
They're symptoms.
They're symptoms of the whole system being thrown out of balance. We're messing with a planet's metabolism, its core regulatory functions. Pumping out greenhouse gases is like giving the planet a fever and disrupting its breathing.
So the warnings from scientists like Tim Lenton about tipping points.
Exactly. Those tipping points, the potential collapse of ice sheets, shutdown of ocean currents, dieback of rainforests, they become like potential organ failure in this analogy, pushing the system beyond its ability to cope and self-correct.
Wow, that makes the Gaia idea feel incredibly urgent. It's not just academic.
Not at all. It emphasizes that Earth isn't just a passive resource dump. It's a dynamic system with limits, and we're pushing them hard.
Which forces you to ask, what happens next? Can the Earth system heal? Can it adapt to us?
Or are we pushing it towards a permanently degraded state? A different kind of equilibrium, maybe one much less hospitable to us. Those are the huge, unanswered questions.
So wrapping this up, we're left with this profound, kind of unsettling question. Is Earth actually alive? Are there other living worlds out there?
Or is Gaia just a really powerful metaphor that helps us understand the deep interconnectedness of everything on our planet?
Yeah.
Maybe the label doesn't matter quite as much as the realization itself.
What's that?
That Earth is incredibly dynamic, it's reactive, it's deeply interwoven with the life it supports. It's definitely more than just rock, water, and air. It's a system, and possibly something much more.
Definitely something to think about next time you look at a forest or the ocean or even just the sky.
Absolutely. It changes your perspective.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. Lots to mull over.